Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world. Time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Ayler's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! IU. America. They got a football team now.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend, and it's ready to get the week started. Unfortunately, whether you want to or not, none of us do, but we don't have a choice. Greg Rakestraw from the ISB Sports Network joins us now. And Greg, for the first time, I don't have to ask you what you did this weekend.
Well, let's see. I landed in Indianapolis. I went to the Brickyard. I went to Colts practice. I called an Indy 11 game. Then I saw you yesterday for the Brickyard 400. That was my weekend.
Yeah, well, I guess I fibbed a little bit because I was just counting yesterday. I should have known that there was much more going on than just that. But so the Indy 11 game, as they roll on, how are they doing, by the way?
They're doing okay. Kind of middle of the table in terms of the standings are concerned. The game they played on Saturday night, they won 2-1. That was part of something new in the league. That's an in-season tournament called the Jägermeister Cup. The Indy 11 won
that now.
Exactly. The Indy 11 won their group, so they are on to the quarterfinals, which will be on August 20th. They will play down in Greenville, South Carolina. This tournament was for the 24 team that were in Indy's league and the 14 teams in the league below League One. Greenville is the only team from League One that advanced to the quarterfinals. So Indy goes on the road but catches somewhat of a break. And then if they win that game, they will play another tournament game on September the 10th with a championship potentially on October the 4th. So season is going well and is trending in the right direction for the Indy 11.
Well, that's good. Always a good thing. Winning is always good. I saw you yesterday, of course, as you mentioned, at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as the PPG Brickyard 400 was happening. And I have to say, Greg, that was the best NASCAR race they have had there in I don't know how many years. You would know better than I do. But as a race, it was competitive. There, it wasn't like somebody was a lap ahead of everybody. The field, there were no tire issues. It was relatively close, and I thought it was an entertaining race.
Well, the guys that had tire issues were seemingly the guys who ran for the team that owns the track, that being Penske, as both Austin Cindric and Joey Logano had a tire issue at one point in time, but they were not systemic of the entire field. That race had a little bit of everything, and obviously it had a very historic winner in terms of Bubba Wallace. For him, it breaks a 100-race streak without a win, just his third career win in what was his 271st start in terms of his top-flight NASCAR career. He is the first person of color to win a major event at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway since Lewis Hamilton won the last USGP for the Formula One ranks in 2007. That obviously makes Bubba the only African-American to win since Lewis is not from the States. And so the race I thought was good, not great. The crowd I thought was better. Again, not great, but better than it has been. But again, the result was something that will get a lot of mileage, both in NASCAR circles and obviously outside. Casual fans or those that pay little attention at all. There might be a few more fans that tune in because Bubba Wallace won a race yesterday.
Yeah, and I have to say, it seemed like that was a very popular win, and it surprised me, not for any reason, but because it seemed to be really popular with the fans. There was a group beside the winner's podium that was really cheering. There was a group across the way. It just seemed to be a really the drivers. I saw so many drivers coming up to congratulate him, going out of their way to do so. Doug Bowles, of course, did so as well. I was fortunate to grab him for just a few seconds. We'll hear from him later, but it seemed to be a really popular win.
The thing that caught my attention was how much love he got from fellow drivers, whether it was on the victory lap and the thumbs up taps that he got, or guys that made it a point to get to the yard of bricks and congratulate him. That tells me a lot about Bubba. Obviously, he has a lightning rod. There are those that love him, and he has his detractors as well, and I'm trying to figure out maybe why he's got some of those detractors. I think I know the reason why, but I'm not sure I want to talk about it on this show. But the fact that virtually every guy in the garage made it a point to congratulate him on the track or after he had won, that kind of tells me what I need to know about the man that is Bubba Wallace.
Yeah, it does, because you can always tell if you're loved by your competitors who you're beating and banging with each weekend. You're exactly right. That says a lot. And some people said that an empty IMS is depressing. It's not empty. For one thing, you have to understand, unless you're putting in 350,000 people into that place, it's going to look sparse. It's like drops of water in the ocean. This is the largest grandstand, to my knowledge, in the world. I mean, it's the largest sporting event in the world. So anything less than Indianapolis is going to look a little different. And turns 1 and 4, they look pretty crowded to me, which seem to be the more preferable spots for fans to land. I don't know what the attendance was, but it definitely, like you said, it looked better. Still recovering from the tire fiasco of years ago.
Correct. And that was 2008, to give you some perspective. So 17 years later. And obviously NASCAR took a dip. I think NASCAR is rebounding. Is it what it was 25 years ago? No. Will it be what it was 25 years ago? I don't know. Will this race get back to what it was, say, the first 10 years it was ran? I don't know. What I can tell you is this, is that the last 2 years, now the return to the oval, and I was a person, I didn't mind it being on the road course. I thought it was frankly more competitive racing being on the road course. But I get the fact that if you're a NASCAR fan, you're like, hey, I want to see my guys run up the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You want to see them run the same course as the Indy 500. So I get that. And obviously fans have voted with their wallets to some degree, because normally, I was on the air yesterday from 11 to 1 and from 6 to 7. And there was traffic terribly backed up when I got there at 10 o'clock? Not really. But were there people lined up to get in the facility at that time? The answer is yes. And that is 4 hours before the race starts. So, okay, I think we're trending in the right direction here. So it is literally probably a fifth, if that much, of the crowd that showed up for the Indy 500. But is it better than it had been in previous years? I can tell you that's a fact. And so that I'm happy to see.
And I know that Doug Bowles was happy about the win yesterday. I think he was very happy with the race, the outcome. He knows everything you're saying. Of course, he knows he's the guy. He's the head. So getting it back there is obviously their goal. And will it reach that point? Probably not. But as long as it grows, because it's a good sport, and you mentioned the road course. If there's probably more passing on the road course than the oval, because it's hard for those guys to pass on that oval for some reason, man.
Part of it is the configuration of the car. Part of it is the lack of banking. Part of it is kind of the track is not narrow, but it's narrow compared to other, NASCAR venues. Again, the Indianapolis 500 and the Indianapolis Motor Speedway are built for open wheel race cars, which is not what stock cars are. The Xfinity cars are smaller, and if you look at that race, it's easier to pass in that race than it is in terms of the Cup Series. So, that is part of the explanation. There was not really an on-track pass for the lead. But yet, Jim, we had 10 different lap leaders. And the best thing that could happen in terms of during the race was having drivers on different fuel strategies. That is what kept it interesting. So, for example, the other Indiana driver, it wasn't just Chase Briscoe, Justin Haley's the other guy from Indiana.
Yeah.
He is from Winnemac, Indiana. And going into the race, we knew, hey, does Justin have a realistic shot of winning the race? Probably not. But he still had 15 laps. And knowing that for that race, he had Gamebridge as a sponsor because he's an Indiana guy, that's a good thing for him, and that's a good thing for the team. So, again, have I seen better races there? Yes. Have I seen worse races there? Yes. And again, because of the way that it worked out and who won the race, there's going to be a lot more mileage after the race in terms of attention to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway than maybe if it had been anybody else. The only other guy that I think, the other storylines that were of interest, obviously, was Chase Briscoe, who led 34 laps, whatever reason, after the last pit stop was not a factor. Just the way that things worked out, he did not factor into the decision at the end of the race, despite.
I rewatched the race, Greg. It's so funny when you're there and not where you are, but where I was going back and forth trying to get down to the pits half the time to do a lot. So I have to go home and watch the race because I don't really see it, and it's hard to really get it. That he was coming to the pits, and right as he was coming, there was a yellow caution, and his crew chief said, "No, stay out," because he couldn't come to pit. That right there was the race for him.
Yeah.
If he beats that flag to pit road, he's in. He gets his caution pit stop, and all things are great for him, and he stays where he is. But he got shuffled right there on the strategy, and that's what lost the race because he dominated early. He won the pole. Need to mention, first driver in NASCAR history to win the pole at the Daytona 500, the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, and at Indianapolis, the Brickyard 400. First driver in NASCAR to ever do that, and congratulations to him for it. But no wins in any of those races. However, it shows they're fast. They are fast, but that was the difference between that and winning. All things being equal, he probably, I think he holds Bubba Wallace off if he gets that pit stop.
Other guy that I thought would have been an interesting story would have been Denny Hamlin, just because he has not won at Indianapolis, and he's won. The television broadcast was great in terms of, hitting that storyline of there have been four guys that have won the Southern 500, the Coke 600, and the Daytona 500. If I can do this off the top of my head. Kevin Harvick, Jimmy Johnson, Jeff Gordon, Dale Earnhardt Sr. That's the list. If Hamlin wins the Brickyard at some point, and he has signed up to be a driver, even though he's now a team owner for 3 cars, and Bubba Wallace's car being one of them, he's going to drive at least 2 more years for Joe Gibbs Racing. He's been 20 years in NASCAR at this point. And if he could have won that and created the crown jewel, the Grand Slam, however you want to refer to it, or the fact that he'd have come from the back of the field, having to start 39th after crashing and qualifying, that would have made a heck of a story. I still think, again, not in NASCAR circles, in big picture circles, the first African-American winner at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway of a major event in Bubba Wallace, that's the thing that has the most juice. And again, might be the most beneficial thing for the sport of anybody winning that race yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was just a good day all around. It was hot, which was fine. It probably made the racing a little bit, I don't know, maybe if it was cooler, the racing would have been better. They would have had a little more grip because the hotter it is, the slicker the track. And these cars are so different from the Indy cars. Indy cars are much more nimble. They're faster. But they're more nimble. They don't need the banking as much, and these cars are used to the banking in the corners at IMS is 9 degrees, people. That's normally what the straightaways are for the tracks that these guys run on. So to give you some perspective, 0 degree on the straights and the backstretch at Indiana, but it was still, I hope that it continues to grow because it's such a great place. And these guys love coming there. They love racing there. You know how badly Denny Hamlin wants to win at Indianapolis, as does Chase Briscoe. And man, gosh, to know that for Chase, I feel bad for him because you got to get some luck, man. You got to get some luck. It's like a shot going down at the right time.
For Briscoe, Jim, you feel it's a matter of time because he'll have so many more opportunities. For Denny, even though he is clearly still at the top of his game, again, the end of his racing days obviously are growing a bit more near. You know, the only other guys that I would put of Denny's kind of generation that are still driving are Brad Keselowski and Kyle Busch. You know, for Brad, maybe it's one more year, maybe, because, again, he is very active in terms of being an owner of what is now Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing of the RFK team that is trying to find, you know, their form of 15, 20 years ago. For Kyle Busch, you know, he's been kind of mid-pack. He's right around the playoff line, but he's not what he was in his Joe Gibbs, you know, racing days. Denny seemingly has had a longer run of success than those other two drivers. But again, just age and knowing he's got his future path mapped out, being a partner of Michael Jordan with owning a race team. Denny's the one you go, hey, he's maybe got one or two shots at this left before he, again, he's a Hall of Famer. He's had a wonderful career. Doesn't need this race to validate that. He's just trying to check off kind of that last career box that's at this point for Denny.
I think he's got two more shots at it because he signed a 2-year extension to race for Joe Gibbs. So that will be most likely the end of his career. As Brad Keselowski, also he's a car owner. His career is about to wind down. He's still relatively competitive as well. Kyle Busch, not so much.
And seemingly Keselowski has been more competitive here than he has been other places the last couple of years because, you know, he's 27th in points, or at least he was going into this race. But yet he has been a factor late in races each of the last two seasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, did you guys have a pit reporter for your broadcast?
Pardon me, Jim?
I said, did you guys? Greg did the broadcast on the Fan yesterday. Did you guys have a pit reporter?
No, it's just me and Kurt Darling kind of being like Stadler and Waldorf, just being two old guys yipping up in the balcony.
Let me volunteer for that position for next year. I spent most of my time in the pits all day yesterday anyway. I mean, I wore a dark polo, thank goodness, because it was soaked through completely. And I was wearing some lighter colored pants, and I started to see, I'm like, oh man, that's not good. I started to see little pockets of moisture coming through my pants, and I'm like, wow, I've never seen that happen to me. It's really, it was warm out there, but it was a hell of a day. But yeah, that would be fun. I would love to be the pit reporter for you guys. That would be a blast.
I will pass it along to management, sir.
What is up next for you, brother?
So literally I'm pulling into Colts training camp as we speak. So practice from 10 o'clock to 11:30. From a broadcast perspective, the City League Finals, which is the kind of big Indianapolis Pro-Am that runs every year. So a little basketball. My last basketball I get to do until early November. So that is on Thursday night, and then the Indy 11 back in action on Saturday night. But we are now 10 days away from the Colts preseason opener against the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm honored to have the television call of all three preseason games this year. For the first time in 3 years, Al Michaels and Amazon Prime are not getting into my pocket and taking a Colts preseason game. So the Rakestraw children are very appreciative of that. So I will be in Baltimore next Thursday for the Colts preseason opener.
Wow, that's quite an opener. Baltimore, the Ravens, always known for their defense. Lamar Jackson as well at the helm and multi-MVP. What's going on right now? What have you seen at Colts camp? I know there's obviously a big-time quarterback duel.
Correct. And Anthony Richardson's been up and down. Daniel Jones has been more consistent. Saturday's practice was dominated by the defense. So far, they've had 4 practice days that have been open to us. Because of my travel, I've seen one of them, which is why I'm going to be here today and tomorrow as well. But so far in the first 4 days of practice, the defense has been the dominant story. And so we'll see after a rest day yesterday if that continues for a 90-minute session this morning.
Well, that's pretty much what you want to hear, because offense will hopefully come around, especially when you've got a quarterback battle going on at the moment. That when your defense is doing well, that gives you a very, very confident feeling going forward. We'll see how the rest of it comes together, and I look forward to talking to you about it. And make sure you're giving Greg a follow and keeping up with all that they have at the ISC Sports Network. Appreciate you as always, my friend.
Thanks. Talk to you next week. Good to see you yesterday.
Yes, sir. You too. You as well, buddy. Greg Rakestraw, our good friend, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got a lot more coming up. Glad to have you along, no matter where or how you're listening, whether it's on one of our great radio station affiliates like 97.7, ESPN, The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, or up in the region on the voice of the region, WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7, and in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked where you got it. It's in the right spot. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios, Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Monday, getting your week started. I hope you had a good weekend. Like I said, it was a hot one, very warm. I'm not going to lie. Yesterday out at the track, that was just, I told you which doesn't sound very pleasant, but my shirt, I was just wearing a polo, an ISB polo and some light colored pants. And thank goodness it was a dark colored shirt because it was completely wet. And it's not because I was jogging or doing anything. I was, other than walking, a lot, I would just be sitting on the wall in the pits, and where fortunately during the race, when one of these cars goes out, man, hey, their pit crew starts cleaning their stuff out right now. Tires are gone. They start breaking down the little towers that their crew chiefs sit in to do all of that. And then you have an open spot, an open pit stall, which is great. But yeah, just sitting there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sweat soaked. But got to speak to quite a few people yesterday. Fortunately, grabbed them. I think most of these were exclusive interviews. Grabbed Chase after the race. Talk to Denny Hamlin, Indianapolis Motor Speedway President Doug Bowles. Let's see, we got a little bit with Ryan Blaney. And let's see, I'm trying to think of everybody. Shane Van Gisbergen. I can't even remember, Bob, but we'll get to him. Here's Chase Briscoe and Denny Hamlin yesterday after the race.
Job to put the car up in front today. I know it was easy. Did it come down to just gas and management?
Yeah, I mean, this place is so hard just to pass and all about track position, and we just got a couple bad breaks, truthfully, with just untimely cautions and stuff not going our way on restarts and stuff like that. So, yeah, just unfortunate, obviously. And then there at the end, we were still running 5th or 6th and just kind of ran out of fuel. So, yeah, unfortunate, but try again next year.
Is this one of those tracks that you don't get many mistakes?
Yeah, you got to be perfect all day, and you also have to have everything go your way. I mean, you just can't have one of those untimely cautions and go from being up front to restart to 20th. You just can't make that up here where other tracks you can. So yeah, just got to be your day every time you come here, and just today wasn't ours.
But you did jump up. You added points, man. Winning 2 stages, that's got to be good going towards the end of the year. You continue this run you've been on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, winning the stage is nice. Getting the playoff point will be big come playoff time, but definitely wanted to get the win.
You'll get more. We'll see you in the victory circle next time. Thank you. Thank you. Dan, you have to go there.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Denny, I saw you out there. It's a great run today.
Yeah, it was great job by the team. They deserve it.
How did you go from being in the back of this field to the front so fast?
Good strategy. We just didn't make any mistakes. That was the biggest part. Not making any mistakes, and certainly executing the car that we had and getting the most out of it.
What's it like seeing Bubba Wallace come in victory circle here at Indianapolis for your team?
It's great. I mean, it's so helpful for us, and certainly feel like now he's in the playoffs. It's just going to be a great stretch run for us.
Greg, good luck the rest of the year, Denny.
That was Denny Hamlin, and also spoke with Joe Gibbs yesterday. Very fortunate to grab some of these guys. See if I can snatch that one into here as well. And Joe Gibbs, of course, the owner of Joe Gibbs Racing, whom Denny Hamlin races for Joe Gibbs, as does Chase Briscoe. But Denny Hamlin owns 2311 Racing with Michael Jordan, who owns the car driven by Bubba Wallace. So a lot of inner workings there. And let's see. Doug Bowles was very happy about this. I can tell you that. Well, that wasn't set up right where he began talking. So let me get back.
Motor Speedway, and this is the first in such a good guy. 16 years of oval racing at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and this is the first and such a good guy. So great for our sport. He loves this place, great attitude, and really, really cool.
And what a tremendous race this was today. Probably the best NASCAR race here in several years.
It's been a good one. These guys have put on good shows everywhere they've gone over the last couple of years. This new car is great, and we're just excited to have them here.
Thank you, sir.
That was President, IMS President Doug Bowles speaking there with me, and I think I was the only one to grab him. Right? You'd see somebody, and I would just grab them. I was not afraid to do that yesterday. Then Joe Gibbs, also, I saw him in Victory Lane and caught him there. And let's see if I can add him to this little mix montage of post-race interviews. Joe Gibbs, of course, having a great year with Chase Briscoe, Denny Hamlin as his drivers. Both of those guys locked into the playoffs already.
Hey, Coach, you didn't get to win today, but your guys had a hell of a race.
Yeah.
Chase Briscoe putting the car on the pole, 2 stage wins, adding to the playoff points. You guys seem like you're really peaking at the right time.
Well, I think Chase has done a great job. The whole team's been great. They've been fast all year, and that's the number one thing you're looking for. So it's great. We had a good day.
Good luck rest of the year, Coach.
Coach Joe Gibbs, owner of Joe Gibbs Racing, was able to grab him there. So very fortunate to get all those guys right there. That was pretty awesome to be able to pile those up. And we'll see how the rest of the year goes. Hey, I like to watch NASCAR. I'm not going to lie. I know it's not everybody's thing, and that's cool. Everybody's has their own deals, but plenty else going on. But man, when something like that is in town, you need to go enjoy it. I think that it was a good, fun race. Plus, going to IMS is one of the great places that you can go to in a sporting event because they let you take your own coolers in. Are you kidding me? You go to the Kentucky Derby, they're wanding your ass for everything. You couldn't take a single airplane bottle of something into the Kentucky Derby, buddy. They will bust your aspirin bottle. It's funny. But yeah, and this is not just for NASCAR. It's for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well. I mean, for the Indianapolis 500 as well. So, and I have to say that without question, of all the places that I've done over all of the years in media, IMS for the Indianapolis 500 and the NASCAR race, the way that they allow media the access that they do, it's incredible. I mean, it is incredible. It allows us to get this kind of content where you couldn't. That we can't get that kind of stuff at IU and an IU game or another college game or anything else. They treat it very, very professionally. Part of it is there's not a bunch of students there, and I don't mean that negatively. You know, IU has a media school, so they've got tons of media students, but that nearly possibly triples the amount of media people there or at an event. So that is huge. So they treat it professionally and everyone acts professionally. They don't let just anybody in. So everybody that's there is actually working media, and it's the track access before the race. Incredible getting down there. Pascal Siakam, the honorary driver for the pace car. That was kind of wild to see as well. But he's the second pace car driver I've seen in a few years. Tyrese Halliburton, I think it was 2 years ago. He was the honorary pace car driver for the Indianapolis 500. He was a little more fired up. I did not get to speak to Pascal. Saw him, of course, close to him, but they were just too far in different places. So, but Brian says you can take anything but glass into IMS. Man, that's a great rule. I mean, let me tell you, there might be other places that allow that. I remember a long, long time ago, I went to a race at the Salem Motor Speedway, the high banks of Salem. If you're not familiar with Salem, it's a little bull ring as well. I'm surprised that track's not more popular, man. High banks, very high banking there. But anyway, it's the same deal. You can go into the infield, take your own damn cooler, chairs, whatever. And I remember doing that once, sitting cockeyed in with my back to turn 3, because that way you can watch everything from turn 4 through turn 1 through turn 2 up the back straightaway, and then you got to turn a little bit. But the only thing would be better is if you had one of those stools that you could just swivel on. But no, it was great entertainment. I have to, be honest with you. It was inexpensive, and so I highly suggest going. Cool. You're welcome, Fred. Appreciate you. Yeah, I'd like to have gotten more, but it's hard. I mean, you cannot imagine the size of this track until you're actually trying to maneuver around it multiple times. The walking is unbelievable. I remember I was down towards Chase Briscoe's pit, which he had the number 1 pit stall. You look back, it looks like it's a half a mile just to the flag stand. just to the yard of bricks, which is not all the way down. So yeah, it's a long race, but great. Jason says Salem is a great raceway. It is. I'm surprised, like I said, that it's not more of a feeder system. Man, I love that. Dusty says appreciates my genuine enthusiasm, excitement for NASCAR and IMS. At least doesn't talk out of his aspirin bottle. No, man, I love it. I love IndyCar racing. Not like I grew up, I'll be honest with you, without choice, knowing about NASCAR when I was a kid, because my dad watched it. And so I had a little blue 43 Richard Petty car, and it was kind of not, I don't want to say forced on you, but it was just ingrained a little bit. And it was fun to watch, the beating, the banging. It was different than the Indy style cars. And so I didn't have an affinity for them growing up, but now I do. But the one thing that I wanted to ask, and I wasn't able to get up there in time, but I asked this of Dale Earnhardt Jr. a couple of years ago. NASCAR used to have the veteran stars, Dale Earnhardt, Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon, all of those old names that were all racing at the same time. I'd like to go back when Dale Earnhardt won, say, Indianapolis, or when he finally won Daytona, and see what the average age of drivers in NASCAR was. Because I'm going to guess it was in the 30s. You had guys a little older and not a lot of guys a lot younger than that. But I'm going to guess the average age was in the 30s. I'd like to see how much that has dropped, because there are so many younger drivers that are baby-faced, and they all race pretty clean. There's not a lot of beating and banging. There's not a lot of rivalries. They need that. I think in NASCAR you need that more, because you can bang a little bit, not as much as you used to be able to. In IndyCar racing, their contact is that could be any contact could be catastrophic. But IndyCar has stars. I can name so many different IndyCar drivers, whether it's Pato O'Ward or Joseph Newgarden, or the man who is just absolutely killing NASCAR right now, or IndyCar, not killing it, but killing it in IndyCar, Alex Palou. He continues to dominate like no other, but they have so many guys, names that people like, people follow, and that is something I think NASCAR lacks. But it is what it is. Hope everything else is going on. Yeah, the rain stayed away. It rained in turn 2, I think. I was standing on pit road, and I felt like 40 raindrops, but it took them a while to get turn 2 dried out. So it must have dropped a little bit over there. So, but overall, a fun time out there. And there's plenty of video up on our YouTube channel. If you want to go up there, you can catch some of that. I try to put up as much different type of content as possible. One of those is just the sounds of NASCAR. Oh my goodness. It is so loud. It's louder than Indy by far, because of these different style engines. You can clearly hear it from the inside of the DEX Media Center there on the 4th floor at IMS. But great day overall. And I know Doug Bowles was very happy. So we'll see how that continues to roll, hopefully successfully. We've got plenty coming up today, as Dustin Dopirak will join us, and we'll hear from Zach Browning, get you caught up on what's going on where with Indiana football and basketball as well. Colts camp, as you heard Greg Rakestraw say, they're 10 days away from their first preseason game against the Ravens. Wow. Whew. That's not who I'd really want to start out against. But boy, will they give you a here's where you are afterwards, because defense is what they are known for first. And then they have this guy named Lamar Jackson. But I don't expect you will see much of Lamar in that game. I would assume you would see some of him, but not sure how much he'll play. Usually the starters play a quarter max. They don't want to get the guys hurt. And I understand that because this is live tackling. And I really, really like what Kurt Signetti does with his preseason regiment of little to no live tackling. I mean, I think that had such a profound effect on Indiana's season last year by keeping so many guys healthy. Because think about it. If you're live tackling 3 days a week in practice, you have quadrupled your risk of injury to a player because you play one game a week. And that's not even a week because you've got 2 buys built in. So it was a strategy that worked quite well. And I think that it keeps the guys healthier. Obviously, it keeps you away from injuries. Let's see. What else do we have going on? Whatever else you want to talk about. Russell says an overview flying cars for sale, where and how to buy them. The cost of a flying car is projected to range from $800,000 to $1 million. What the hell are we talking about flying cars for, man? That they're just, I'll tell you something I saw yesterday that blew my mind at first. It makes sense, but you know how, especially here in Indiana, with all of the corn and soybean growing, especially the further north you get, a lot of guys have people come in with crop dusters to spray their crops. I saw a drone crop dusting on my way up to Indianapolis yesterday, and I was like, what the hell? And then I'm like, well, that's pretty smart, with the one exception. I'm like, wow, it did not have a big range of spray, and I can't imagine that it can carry much. So it would seem like it would take damn near forever to do it that way, although probably not as long as doing it by hand, obviously. So there's that. But drone crop dusting, how about that? Man. Justin throwing up our favorite NASCAR driver name of the day, Dick Trickle. And that's a great way to end the segment. And then you've got Cole Trickle, of course, from Days of Thunder. Hey, we've got more coming up. Dustin Dopirak will join us later, as is Zach Browning from thehoosier.com. We're going to be back after this break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the hard truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. I am glad to have you along for the ride. Hope your weekend went well. It was a hot one, certainly a hot one out there, but lots still going on. Bill Self out of the hospital after having stents inserted. That was last week. And I saw somebody mention this last week as well, but I did not talk about it. The University of Florida, they're on their national championship team last year, although he was either redshirted or on the bench, regardless. 7'9" Oliver Rue is going to try out for football. He played for the under-19 Canadian national team this summer in basketball. Recently worked out for the Florida Gators football team. Now, he donned an orange helmet and took snaps on special teams with Florida assistant coaches, hoping his massive wingspan might be a difference maker when it comes to blocking field goals and extra points. I like the idea, Gators basketball coach Todd Golden said during a booster event Thursday. I give them credit for trying it. Yeah, wait till he jumps up and somebody sticks a helmet right in his rib cage. But I don't know that he has the bulk to stop guys who are going to push him back. In this story, there was one issue, he's 305 pounds. The 305-pound Rue has an 11-inch vertical. So even with his extra long reach, he was unable to block any kicks during the workout. They were a little disappointed, Godin said. No worries, Rue can simply stick to his full-time gig with Hoops team. Yeah, and that's nothing. Like I said, I guarantee you he had a red jersey on, being protected, so he would probably get crushed. 305 pounds spread out over that much body is probably not really that much, but that tells you the athletic ability. An 11-inch vertical. 11. He can jump this high, which he doesn't need to jump that high, obviously, for basketball, but did not work out for football. So that story seems to be tourney expansion likely coming to an NCAA basketball tournament near you in the fall. NCAA President Charlie Baker said last week that he thinks a decision on whether to expand the NCAA tournament will be made sometime this fall, making it less likely it would impact the upcoming season. Baker, speaking at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C., said the biggest challenge for the tournament expansion, particularly one that takes place in less than 8 months, is logistics. They don't need a damn expansion. We'll talk about this with Mike tomorrow. The tournament has to start after the conference championships are over, he said. And right now, Selection Sunday happens like 2 hours after the last tournament game ends and has to finish by Tuesday before the Masters. There's not a lot of room there. Any expansion, we're going to have to figure out how to put it in, then logistically how to make it work. How about not doing it? Nobody's wanting this. Who the hell is asking for this? I have yet to see anybody say, who's wanting this? Who's calling for this? I really do. If they have, I've missed it. But who is asking for expansion, especially after last season? You know, we've talked so much about there were teams that got in that didn't deserve it. North Carolina absolutely did not deserve to be in. That should have been West Virginia's spot, but that would have been the last team that deserved to be in the tournament. North Carolina did not deserve to be in. Indiana did not deserve to be in. and any of the next few teams also just simply did not deserve it. So why are they trying to, and who cares about these play-in games? Who's watching these? Who's taking their time out to watch those? I know now if it comes to the heavy bettors, probably them, but is that it? Is that enough? Really? So it's probably going to happen, unfortunately. There are every year, this is a quote, there are every year some really good teams that don't get in the tournament for a bunch of reasons. Well, what really good teams did not get into the tournament last year? That came from Baker. One of the reasons they didn't get in is because we have 32 automatic qualifiers. There are 32 conferences in D1, and their conference champions get into the tournament. Now, I love that. I think it's great, and I never want that to change. But that means there's only 36 slots left for everybody else. And in many cases, there are teams that are among the 50 or 60 best in the country. Again, I ask you, who was that last year? Number one. Number two, who was asking for this? He cited 2024 St. John's and the 2024 Indiana State teams. Okay, so just because something happens sometime every now and then does not make it the norm. We've seen that some, but it doesn't matter. It's coming. They're going to do it. It's about money. It's about money. Elijah Arenas, the son of Gilbert Arenas, is going to miss 6 to 8 months after suffering a knee injury that will require surgery. He plays for USC, so that's going to dent their hopes this year. The ACC is going to release availability reports before conference games now. Everybody kind of getting up. But again, this is another thing. Everybody needs to be on the same page in college football. Same number of conference games. Everybody should be releasing availability reports. The whole deal. It's one thing after another. Glad to have you along here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Jim Coyle with you as always. Lots more coming up. Dustin Dopirak will join us. Zach Browning as well. We've got to take a break. We're back with more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages.
If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today.
Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Rye, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday, getting your week started. And what better way to do that than with the man about town, Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star, Pacers beat writer. Your summer's about over, man. When do you got to get back to it?
No, my summer's just starting.
Is it really?
My summer's just starting, man. No,
man. Well, these days you can never tell. It seems like
yeah.
as soon as one season starts, it begins again.
No. My summer is just starting. We got summer league ended. What was it? The 20th. So had a few things coming off of last week as far as news items. Pacers made a final decision on their last two-way contract. I guess there's a little bit that's out there, but they've got 15 guys under standard contracts. You had summer league stuff to write about, a few other things I had to take care of, and I'm golden until end of September for the most part. I mean, obviously stuff could happen. There could be trades, anything like that, but it's more, like I have hit my chill out period. So mine's just started. I'm good until everybody else has to work. The Colts camp started last week. IU gets started, you guys just had Big Ten media days. Now you guys have to work. I don't. So,
I was at the track all day yesterday, and let me tell you, I could have done nothing and just sat in one spot if it was outside. It felt like I worked my aspirin bottle off because it was just like every day here. You walk outside and you get slapped in the face with a warm, wet blanket.
Yeah,
and that's what it was like. But
it's summer, man. Yep.
What about Thomas Bryant? How are things looking for TB?
I saw a report come out over the weekend that it looks like, I think, Greece, I want to say.
Really?
There was an overseas team. I got to look it up while I'm talking to you.
So he's gone from the Pacers then?
Yeah, there's not enough contract space left. Basically, they ended up deciding to keep the two guys that were injured basically last year. The guy basically, and obviously Bryant's position opened up in the first place because two guys got Achilles tendon tears. He was in Miami at the time, wasn't playing very much. And Isaiah Jackson and James Wiseman tore their Achilles. They had to wait till December 15th to make a trade because Bryant was an off-season free agent signee. But he obviously came in to replace them, and they decided to re-sign those guys. Isaiah Jackson was a restricted free agent. They ended up keeping him, and Wiseman they traded. The Raptors waived him. He did the rest of his rehab in Indiana, and they decided to give him another shot. And so on top of that, they obviously traded for Jay Huff, and they decided to keep Tony Bradley on a non-guarantee contract for now. He had a club option on his contract, so they kept him. So they got 4 centers in camp right now. In theory, in camp, there's no camp until the end of September, but so they've got 4 guys on contract. And so, I think they decided that Thomas was going to be the odd man out. They also haven't signed James Johnson. That's going to be an interesting scenario. At this point, they don't know that they can. So we'll see what happens there. They could obviously decide to, they could waive Bradley and do something else with that contract. But it just seemed like at some point it became clear that Bryant was going to be the odd man out. And so the name of the team, it is a Greek team. Panathinaikos, I think.
Is that Rick Pitino's former team?
What's
remember
that?
Remember when Rick Pitino left the country to go coach Greece for 2 years?
It could have been them. I know of, I think, Olympiakos and 2. They all ended with KOS.
Of course.
That's all I know. But yeah. So I don't know. I don't remember which team Pitino coached, but yes, he did coach the team. In Europe,
maybe he'll have a
this
Greek
must be a halfway decent team because they almost got Jonas Valanciunas out of his contract. At least they tried to, basically, out of because Valanciunas had just been traded and they were trying to get him just to come back to Europe. He was obviously a European player, and so instead of using the money they were going to use to lure him out of that deal, they're trying to pay Thomas. So Thomas is going to get very well paid in Europe, but it seems like Europe is the direction that he's going.
And the Pacers are going to have a very, very different look next year with Tyrese Halliburton sidelined obviously. and now you've got some of the guys that's been
Turner left. Yeah.
Turner's gone. Some other guys gone. So, and even Thomas Bryan, who had his moments during this playoff run, it's going to be a completely different look going into next season.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, obviously, there's a lot of other pieces that are still there. You know, I mean, like they're not completely gutted. You still have Nemhard, Neesmith, and Siakam out of the starting lineup. You still have O'Connell. You still have Toppin. You still have Mathurin. You still have Ben Shepherd. You still have Jarris Walker. You know, like they have a lot of the key pieces, obviously, but there's just two major ones that are gone that have been a big piece to this. So there's going to be a lot of things they're still going to be able to do. I think the question is, how close can they resemble a style of play? Just how much can they keep that sort of ball movement thing going, or do they need to kind of adjust, to their personnel? And I think the big question is, do they adjust to Benedict Mathurin? Do they, let him rock more or less, and let him play his isolation style of ball, getting one-on-one and just try to cook people? Do they slow it down, let him stop the ball a little bit so that he can score, because he's going to be the second most talented scorer they have after Pascal Siakam? Neither Nemhard nor Neesmith, as good as they are all around, as well as they fit the style of play, and as good defenders as they are, have never been the featured scorer, at any time. So that's kind of the question, in terms of how they're going to do this. Basically, are they going to be able to maintain the same, kind of pace and everything like that, and still have enough guys that can put the ball in the basket, enough guys that can create gravity, which is what you kind of need to have to keep that thing going. I mean, a big part of Halliburton being as good as he is he's able to get two guys on him on a pick and roll. He's able to create gravity that moves a couple people to his side. And then when the ball starts moving, it's going to find somebody who's open. You have to have some level of gravity to do that. And so that's going to be the interesting question, where Mathurin is the type of guy that, again, is more one-on-one oriented, and he's not as sharp moving the basketball as everybody else is. Do you need to do something that allows him to kind of enhance his skills like as he has in the past whenever Halliburton's been out? So I think those are some big questions I think the Pacers are going to have to answer, certainly for themselves. I mean, it would be nice if they answer them for us. They probably won't. But at some point, you'll see what that looks like on the floor in terms of how they're going to play. Certainly they could still make a big move. They could still decide to package a couple people, including Mathurin, in a trade if they wanted to. But you don't know what somebody else would want, what they would want, what's important for them in terms of building long-term, both in terms of players and in terms of salary. They still have some time to make some moves, but yeah, no, it is going to be a different team. Obviously, they built the entire team around Halliburton. It is designed to play the way Halliburton plays, both in the first and second unit. So when you lose the guy who, again, is your driving force, is your engine, it's going to be interesting to see how they operate differently. Do they just try to keep it together the same way, just so they don't, they maintain that as much as they can. And if they lose more games, they lose more games, but you just maintain the style so that it's the same way when Halliburton gets back? Or do you try to morph it to make it fit best the guys that you do have available? And I'll be interested to see how Rick Carlisle handles that.
Yeah, it's just not going to be the same next year, and it's going to be tough. And it's going to be tough for them to probably make the playoffs, in my opinion. I don't know if they have the firepower.
I mean, they could. I'm not going to rule them out. Okay, just because I've seen them do stuff I didn't expect them to do before. I didn't think they'd be in the Eastern Conference Finals last year. I didn't think they'd be in the NBA Finals this year. So I am going to presume that they can surprise you, because they're tough dudes. They're they believe in the system. All that kind of stuff. I don't think. And there's some people that say that they should take a gap year and just tank and just go try to get a draft pick because they did get their 2026 pick back. I don't think you can make this team do that. I don't think they have I don't think you could get Aaron Neesmith and Andrew Nemhard to back off. I don't think that's an option. So I think they're going to win enough that they're going to be in, the playoff conversation. I don't know if it printed today or not, but you just kind of ranked where I think everybody is in the East. And I probably rank the Pacers higher than some people. I have them 7th, and some people are going to, that want to believe that they're still going to be a championship team are going to say that I'm not being respectful enough. But some other teams think that they're probably going to tank and end up in the lottery. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I think they're going to find a way to stick with it. I think, I think Siakam is a better player than he's ever been. He just hasn't had to take the shot volume that he had to in Toronto. He's going to be able to carry them to a certain extent. He's a really, really, really good player, and he's going to be able to keep everybody's level up. Now, several other teams obviously made, I think, big moves that'll put them closer to title contention. Obviously, I think right now everybody thinks that Cleveland and the Knicks are the favorites. Obviously, Boston is in a similar situation to the Pacers, having lost Jason Tatum presumably for the year with his Achilles tendon tear. Orlando, I think getting Desmond Bane was a big move. Atlanta, added some very key pieces. I think Detroit, after making that playoff run, I think they're a team that just needed to get in there and needed to see what it was like. And they had a great series against the Knicks, even though they lost in 6. Those were fantastic basketball games. I think the Pistons are ready to be more of a title contender in the same way that the Pacers were last year. I think the Pistons are ready to make a move. So, I'd have a hard time picking the Pacers over any of them, and I didn't. They could, I think, you got to give the edge to Milwaukee by virtue of they have Giannis, but after that, that roster doesn't look that great either. And so, I think that, that's still a team that they could beat. I think, I think they're at the same level as Boston is. At this point, Boston certainly has a lot of shooters, and certainly they're going to be even more 3-point dependent than they have been. So that's a team that they could beat. You don't know what Philly's going to be. Certainly if they're healthy, if they haven't beaten, they have Maxey and they have Paul George, then they're a playoff contender. But they never have all those guys. They played maybe 8 games together all of last year. So you don't know when you're going to see Joel Embiid be the real thing. You don't know when you're going to see Paul George. Toronto's pretty good, but who knows? Charlotte's okay. I think they added some important pieces. Chicago, Miami, I don't think it's out of the question for the Pacers to compete with a lot of these teams. So I do think just by virtue of will and having guys that have been part of this system for a few years, have just been part of the general ethos that is the Pacers, they're going to be competitive. It's just a question of how competitive. But, I do think it'll be a fight to get in the playoffs. I have them as a play-in team right now, but it wouldn't shock me if they're above that. It would shock me if they win a series. It would surprise me if they were a top 4 seed. That's one I don't really see coming at this point. But I don't like to rule these guys out because they ended up way better than I thought they were going to be. And they can play without Halliburton. I've seen it. They can win without him. It's just a question of winning at that level. Winning 45, 50 times in a season is a different story.
Yeah, and that's going to be, like you said, something hard to maintain next year. A lot is going to be asked of guys who haven't been able to do
exactly
that.
Yeah.
But maybe also these are guys that are getting opportunities that they may not have gotten before, and it's an opportunity to shine. And you never know what happens when the light shines on somebody. Sometimes it surprises you, and you find another star, which would only be better for the future for that program. Man, and there's not a lot they can do. Because if you bring in guys and they're signed to multi-year contracts, but then when Tyrese comes back and that's a lot of logistics. Basically, they have a logistics issue for next year.
Sure. Yeah. And you can't do that. Like the way the cap works in the NBA, there are some things you just can't do. They couldn't, and obviously certainly at this point, most of the guys that were in free agency are picked over anyway. You'd have to move somebody. Like if you want to go get a big star that makes 20 something million a year, well, you have to send 20 million in salary out. You're anybody who's above the cap. You don't have to exactly match salary. I think you can take like 125% of what you're sending out. So you can take in more salary than you're sending out, but you still have to send a good bit out. If you want a $25 million player, you have to send at least, 20 million out. So you'd be looking at sending out a guy like an Obi Toppin or a TJ McConnell or somebody like that. If you're swinging that big, you are sending out people that are established key members of this team. Certainly Ben Mathurin, if you wanted to move on from him, I mean, he only gets you so much because he's heading in the last year of his rookie contract. So he only makes $9 million. And so the thing about it is, it's like, if you look at their roster and imagine trades, if you were a baseball team coming up to the deadline as they are, it's totally different. I mean, you might say, okay, well, Ben Mathurin is a young guy, 23 years old, has been averaged 16 a game, or better than 14 a game every year he's been in the NBA. That's 3 years in him. That's the guy that's got to get you something because he's only 23. Well, yes, but he's only a $9 million player. You'd have to put more salary on that. You have to send somebody like Obi Toppin, who makes $14 million a year, and that gets you up to 23. And then even in that case, you're looking at a $23 million player. Well, the guys who are making max deals right now are making 45. And that's what you're paying Tyrese Halliburton this season, and he's not playing. So if you were trying to get in whereas like baseball, you could go get a guy as a rental, for a season, it doesn't work that way. If you were to get a $45 million player, you have to send at least $40 million in salary out, you can't get that you have to stack several guys, or send out Pascal Siakam, and you don't want to do that. So it just doesn't really work that way, where again, like in baseball, you could just say, okay, this guy's on my injured list all year. I need to go get this guy on a 1-year deal or something like that, or I just have to take on mega salaries and get up to whatever money. Football, you have a scenario where you can do some things too, because you do have injured reserve, like those are some things you can do. Well, Halliburton is going to take up a roster spot all year, and he's going to get paid $45.5 million. And you have to, operate your contract in kind. And it's not like you can just go way, way high and, you're at the apron and you pay these penalties. Like, you can't take those guys on. Like, you couldn't just throw out an offer to somebody. You have to send salary out. You can't send just a pile of draft picks, for 10 years. I mean, you can obviously add that, and that sweetens the pot. But you can't there's not enough draft picks that get you a max player. You have to send salary out. They are in a position. You're probably not going to see. There's a good chance you're not going to see him move. There's a good chance that these guys are who they are. And this is the roster that they're going to roll with going forward. So, they just have to figure it out and, try to get as much as they can. Obviously, there are some guys who are stepping into roles that they've done before. They just haven't done it for this long. Andrew Nembhard has been the lead guard in games, in 5-10 game stretches when Halliburton's been out, but he's just never been the guy for a whole year. That's the difference. And, he's been the guy for the whole year defensively. He's been asked to guard the best player on the opposing team, all 3 years of his career. Since he was a rookie, he's been asked to take on those assignments. So it's not like he can't do big things. It's just, he's usually been doing them more on the defensive end. He's rarely been the guy that's just, asked to score 15, 20 a night. He's done it in individual games. He's just, you're going to need him to score 15 to 20 a game, for the year. And, I think he got over 10 last year for the first time. So it's that kind of stuff. It's not just taking on the role for a bit. It's taking on the role for a year.
Dustin Dopirak with us right now from the Indy Star, Pacers beat writer. And he's got a piece out right now talking basically about this very thing. That Kevin Pritchard took a defiant tone is the first sentence in the piece. And of course, Coach Rick Carlisle, he thinks that it says in your piece that he thinks that they can overcome these challenges. Of course, he would have to say that no matter what, but I'm sure he does believe that, because his team was built on overcoming challenges all last year with what they had. And so we hear Signetti or whomever, whatever coach we're talking, next man up. And you hope that you have that guy. Now, I'm not saying that there's a guy on the bench that's going to be the next guy up to take Tyrese Halliburton's spot as doing what Tyrese did. But whether it has to be done with the group or whatever it takes, but the Pacers will try, as they always do, to be in that top 8 when the season ends.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it's yeah, like to your point. I mean, you have to believe. You have to keep believing no matter what.
Well, if you don't believe, nobody's going to.
Nobody else will. And so, it's like they can't give into the idea of all the pundits are saying, they're not going to win, because I mean, certainly they're the Pacers and they're saying, well, people have been saying that for years. I mean, Halliburton literally, like when we did exit interviews after they got beat in the Eastern Conference Finals, he was even talking about what he expected the narrative to be. He said they'll probably say that, we got lucky against Milwaukee and we got lucky against the Knicks, and they can't do this again and they can't do that again. And they ended up going to the NBA Finals, and I didn't expect that. I mean, I figured, I know I came on the show and I said, all right, they'll probably beat Milwaukee and then they'll get Cleveland, and Cleveland and Boston are going to end up in the Eastern Conference Finals because those teams have won 60 games, and you rarely see two teams win 60 games and not play each other in the Eastern Conference Finals. And neither one of them made it. And so, I certainly didn't see that coming, and the Pacers did. They believed in themselves, as they should. And so they, and if you're Rick Carlisle, you're coming off of this stretch and feeling like, man, I can get a lot done. I can, the way he's built this team up at this stage of his career is, certainly a deeply impressive accomplishment. So he's got to believe that they can do anything. And they have enough pieces to be competitive. They do. I mean, I do think, for as much as, again, I picked them to finish 7th. I could see a lot of things changing. I mean, I think I picked Cleveland to finish 7th this year in the East. And, a large part of that was looking at these teams and saying, they're really close together. I mean, they, you go back 2 years ago, go back to 2023, 24. I mean, you had everybody from 2 to 7 or 8 within 3 games of each other. Maybe it was 4 at most. I mean, that's how closely packed the East can be. So it comes down to, sometimes it is some random game in December or some random game in January that you won by 5 or lost by 5, or just hung in there to win. You never know. I mean, it is a, there is more parity than there's ever been in the NBA. The NBA, throughout its history has been dominated by dynasties, and teams that win at least 2 or 3 in a row. And we're in this rare place that it's not that. I mean, I think we're looking at 7 years in a row that, actually more than that. It's going back to, I think 2018 with Golden State was the last, repeat champion. Yes, that is 7 years. And, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, you had a new champion every year. And, obviously Oklahoma City might be able to repeat. Not out of the question, but they're, all of a sudden in a circumstance where all their guys got paid. And so, they're not going to be too far away from being where Boston is this summer, where they had to try to get under the second apron with Tatum hurt, and they had to move some guys. And now Boston's going to, kind of fall down the ladder a little bit and has to climb their way back up. And, after, they won last year, and we're like, man, Boston might win a bunch in a row. One big injury, and all of a sudden they're looking at their contract status and saying, oh shoot, we got to move some guys. Oklahoma City could be in a very similar circumstance. They had to give max contract extensions out to Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren and Jalen Williams, and so that's a lot of money. And so they're not too far from falling down the ladder a little bit too. And so the Pacers are in a place where they can. I think they can hang with these teams. I mean, again, like you look at their roster and you kind of say, okay, Orlando's looks better, with Desmond Bane and Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. Atlanta's looks pretty good when you get Jalen Johnson back. You get Trae Young, obviously, certainly back, but Dyson Daniels, they picked up some pieces that are as Karis LeVert, I thought was a good ad for them. No, they didn't get LeVert. Detroit got LeVert, but they got somebody else. I'm trying to think who all Atlanta got, but Atlanta got some pieces that make them look pretty formidable. And again, you could see Philly, you could see Milwaukee, just on virtue of having the best player. Like all these teams are teams that could get past the Pacers, but that doesn't mean they will. Again, like the Pacers have DNA where they've won, and they've got guys who can really defend, get down, and fight you. And so when you have those type of guys, you gotta, believe that you got a puncher's chance. But just because, again, they've won, they know what it's like. They're going to be motivated. And there are a lot of dirty work things they know how to do that not everybody else does. So, you gotta maintain some respect on their name on the virtue of the fact that they have won. And even though they're missing their best player in their face of their franchise, they still have a lot of players that can play and a lot of players that have won, and they're going to have a lot of pride.
Put some respect on my name, baby.
Exactly.
You can catch Dustin's latest piece right now in the Indy Star, as he is the beat writer for the Pacers. He's got a piece up there right now talking about this very subject. We've got more coming up from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We're back with it on the other side following these messages.
The ISC Sports Network is your home for sports content across the Hoosier State. Find us live on TV and streaming or archived on our website and our app. The ISC is your one-stop shop for the content you want to see, including high school sports, college sports, and other great events throughout the year. Subscribe to our streaming service and get access to it all. ISC, local lives here.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemore@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. I hope you had a great weekend. How was your weekend, by the way?
Good. Went up to South Bend, visit, my wife's family. Went to Bob Hamill's memorial yesterday.
And you know what? We haven't talked about that yet. So I'm glad you brought that up. Of course, Bob Hamill, the longtime reporter for the Bloomington Herald, who was befriended by Bob Knight back in the days of very, very few media people, for one thing. Bob was probably the only guy. I don't want to say that for certainty because I don't know who was working for the Star at that time. And there was not the ownership relationship of the Star and the Herald like there is now. But I don't know that there was anybody that covered Indiana like Bob Hamill. Well, with the frequency.
Sure. No, I mean, I know the Star did have beat writers certainly there, and that relationship I'm sure was different. But no, I mean, Bob was embedded at a different level for sure, and certainly not just when it came to basketball. And I think that was one thing that sort of stood out as far as fascinating to me is just how much he devoted to covering everything else. He covered like 5 or 6 Olympics, mostly because he was following, the swimming empire, basically that Doc Councilman built. He was in Munich for, the Mark Spitz Olympics. I say the Mark Spitz Olympics, obviously there was a lot of other stuff going on out there.
No, it was the Mark Spitz Olympics at that time what did he win? 7 gold medals?
Yeah. Well, as far as sports was concerned, but you also had a terrorist act in the 72 games.
Israelis, yes.
Yes, and there was also the that was the one. I think the Russians won the basketball on that
that was 72.
Yeah, so that was a messed up call. That was 72. So
it was 3 messed up calls to finally get the Russians to win that. that
a stretch of them. Yes. So yeah, a lot was going on in those 72 Olympics, but one of the big things was Mark Spitz and his dominance. But I mean, that was one of several. I mean, he would go to Olympic trials, every year to see, certainly because there was that many IU folks that were gold medal, caliber, athletes. I mean, they were dominant, and to the point of like they were, responsible for most of U.S. swimming dominance at that point was coming out of IU, and Bob Hamill was following all of that. But yeah, no, I mean he was prolific. I mean he covered the daylights out of everything. I mean, you pick up an old Herald Telephone or Herald Times. I don't know when we got rid of the telephone name. And I still do call them way because, well, one, they're one of our properties, and two, I still, kind of consider that paper as home in a way. But like you don't have one Bob Hamill story. You have like 5, basically, from a basketball game. And certainly it was an afternoon paper there. It was a different world. And even, I don't even understand what the deadline for an afternoon paper is.
It's like, yesterday. It was yesterday.
Yeah, it was a different world. But he, you'd see 4 or 5 Bob Hamill stories, coming off of a single basketball game. And he's writing about everything. He's writing about the other team. He's writing about, every angle that you could possibly come up with. And it's, it was incredible, the kind of stuff that Bob did, the amount of work he, churned out, and, was, yeah, he was a different world. Again, I mean, like IU was, I'm sure it was still a huge beat at that time. I don't imagine that it was, just Bob Hamill in this little corner of the world, and he was the only person talking about Bobby Knight. But, I mean, it probably did take a while. I mean, like, like for a couple of years for it to build up the kind of, media following it had, basically. And that's, because you see, I think Bob got his job in 66 at that point, like they're in a little bit of a down period between McCracken and Knight. And, then, it takes a couple of years for IU to become the team that became.
But he had the Indiana football team go to the Rose Bowl. And then
second year, and then not do anything for a long time after that. But
and I like to talk about this because what, in my opinion, what happened? All right, so Indiana wins the Rose Bowl and was the 68 Rose Bowl for the 67 season.
Right,
I think that's right.
They didn't win it; they got beat by O.J. Simpson.
Oh yeah, they went to the Rose Bowl rather. I'm sorry, they lost O.J. Simpson and the Trojans. But then Indiana football had an issue with the African American players who were not being taken care of correctly. They boycott. There's issue with the football program right there, right just about the time. It was a couple of years before, but it started the cycle. Then Bob Knight arrived, and not only did he arrive, but bam, Indiana basketball from an afterthought again back up to dominance. And being a basketball state, it was very easy for Indiana University, I guess, to say, screw football. We got a basketball powerhouse. And to me, that is where football lost its way, because prior to that, they were competitive in the Big Ten. And so it was, and of course, football changed, and Indiana also, again, did not change with that, didn't keep up. But basketball kept growing and growing. It became a behemoth. Bob Knight became a behemoth. The one thing about Bob Hamill that people have talked about, and I'll acknowledge it as well, is that he was too close to Bob Knight and unable to call out his true negatives, whether it was on the floor or off the floor, because there were many. And we know that he probably knew about a lot of these, and I get it, because he had what nobody else had. He had this line that nobody else has. And if you do that, well, you just cut your link, especially with Bob Knight.
Yeah, I mean, he was in a tough spot. I mean, this obviously is a sensitive piece for me, because
I understand, and I don't want to.
You don't want it generally. You don't want to be that close, on a general level, and so like you do have to allow for circumstance and all those kinds of things. But there is a, you don't want to be in a place where you're not objective. You want to create good relationships, but you don't want to get to the point that you feel like that you can't totally tell the truth. And so obviously I know about this discussion. I know about this idea, but like, I don't know everything he had and didn't have. I don't know every ethical conundrum he came up to. So like, I can't speak to it in a level of depth, but you do have to, again, like, you're not a fan, you're not their friends, like, you have to view it that way as much as you can be friendly with them and professional, and all those kinds of things. Professional is a big key, and so, like I said, I don't know, like, I couldn't break down the ethical, issues or what might have been there. And you do have, that is a tough thing on the other side, that you're saying, okay, well, this person trusts me and this person gets along with me. And as long as I'm getting access that nobody else is getting by virtue of this. And I do think and also just seems like their relationship was sincere. Like, it's not like it was purely transactional or anything like that. Like, they stayed close all well beyond when both of them were retired. They spent a long time together after. He wrote books with him and all this kind of stuff. Again, generally on a general level, you're not supposed to do that. Just as far as, seeing behind the curtain and how this stuff is supposed to work, you're not supposed to be that close, and you're not supposed to put yourself in a position where if somebody does something, you feel like you can't write it. Again, I don't know what he knew when he knew it. I've heard general things about, okay, he didn't write this about Neil Reed, or he didn't write this about the Connie Chung situation, or, like all those kinds of things. And Bobby got in trouble a lot. There was
he left a lot of crumbs along the way.
So, and I don't know if there was more there that wasn't reported, but, obviously, so, it puts you in a tough position. And I know that was, and that wasn't just tough on Bob Hamill. I think if you talk to the guys that covered the night era at all, like it was tough from that standpoint, because you'd get beat up. I remember sitting around with a bunch of the old guys at somebody's retirement party, back when I was working in Bloomington, and just hearing these tales.
Think of who it is, and I know exactly who you're talking about, I think, and I cannot think of his name.
Possibly. This was way back. But yeah, it was a lot. And so but again, it was a different time. It was a different world. And you did have to consider that you did have to deal with that guy every day. He wasn't going away. You weren't going to make us the smart, ethical move and then not have.
The general managing editor of the paper probably would have killed him if he cut that source. But
you talk to them too, because I obviously know them. The people that were higher ups at that point, and because some of them were still there when I was there, they kind of let Bob be Bob and say, okay, you have that, you handle it as you handle it, but I don't know how they view that long term. I think, it's just all I will say. I can't get too deep into saying, okay, well, this is what they should have done here, what they should have done.
Right. Here. And no one's asking that.
Yeah, I wasn't privy to all that. But it was an ethical conundrum. And it was a tough situation, because it wasn't like you could just go explain it to him, Bobby, this is why I had to do this. We can agree to disagree. You got froze out. Bobby froze people out, where Bobby wouldn't talk to you for a while.
You have to agree with him and not do or say anything negative towards him. Doesn't matter if it's true as rain. Can't do it. Couldn't do it.
Yeah. And so that's the thing. And so so if you're Bob Hamill, you got to deal with him every single day. And that's another piece to it. So I try not to overjudge on that. Again, like, you're not supposed to do some of those things. And so I'm fortunate that I haven't been covered by anybody that expects that kind of loyalty, because you're not supposed to be loyal to the coach you cover. You are loyal to the paper, you're loyal to the readers, you're loyal to the truth. That's where your loyalty is supposed to be. So I'm not, but again, I don't have enough of all of Bob's, yes or no ethical decisions to be able,
and dilemmas. They were all dilemmas. So I understand it, man.
It was a different world. It was a different place, and it was a tough person to cover for sure.
Yeah, and I was fortunate to have the Heisman Foundation. Bob was the Heisman voter for this region for 1,000 years.
Yeah, Bob hooked me up too.
And I'm fortunate to be to have taken his place as a Heisman voter, and I will always be honored. He had nothing to do with it, but I will be honored just because of that. And I just really that's a great honor, man. What's up next for you, brother?
Hopefully a lot of nothing.
There you go. Enjoy it.
Hopefully
I hope you do have a lot of
while. Yeah, but, we'll start to see some things pick back up when we get to September. But yeah, I don't know. Fix my house. I don't know, something. I'm sure I got a list of things to do. But they're just less, be a little bit less right.
Honeydew. Yeah. I see honeydew melons in your future.
Yeah. So
Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all of his content. Hopefully there will be a little less content over the next few weeks from him just because he's resting, but we appreciate you, brother.
Yep. Thanks for always, Jim.
You betcha. Thank you. The great Dustin Dopirak from the Indy Star joining us. Up next, Zach Browning from thehoosier.com. We'll talk about Indiana basketball, football as well, but basketball adding another key piece. More of that on the backside from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. If you're looking for a new home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from Brick and Ivy Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl at CherylSizemooreSells@gmail.com or 317-701-0838. That's 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore sell or find your new home today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Monday. I hope your weekend went well, and we're getting your week off to a good start. Zach Browning from thehoosier.com joining us. Zach, I hope you had a great weekend. Doing a lot of nothing, I'm assuming.
No, I actually had a busy weekend. There's a summer pro-am basketball league that I've been doing some work for, the City League on the east side of Indy. So we had the playoffs this week. So that was a long Saturday and a long Sunday for me.
Who's playing in that?
A lot of guys that we would be familiar with. Connor McCaffrey's on one of the teams.
Okay, so this is an older post-college kind of a deal.
Yes. Darius Adams, who beat Assembly Ball and TBT, and they just lost last night with Phil Harder, Kyle Guy's team. Darius Adams is playing one of those teams. Aaron Henry, Marquise Teague's on one of those teams. There's a lot of really talented guys.
Wow, that sounds like some fun stuff to go watch, man. Yeah, speaking of the TBT and Phil Harder, that upset Assembly Ball, but they went on and they won the Indianapolis region, and they were playing well as the 7th seed. So great job by Cal Guy's squad this year in the TBT. The Assembly Ball team, man, not a good showing.
Yeah, no, not at all. I think it's an issue a lot of fans have with Assembly Ball. It's difficult, I get, to root for them because there's just not a lot of IU guys, and the IU guys that are on the team don't
Didn't
really play
play.
that big of a role. So it's difficult.
Yogi
for sure
Ferrell
for a
didn't
lot of
play. I
fans.
guess James Blackman Jr. didn't play either, did he?
Nope.
Jordan Hulls actually had minutes.
He got his typical 3-minute cameo. That's about it.
Weird. But as far as Indiana basketball, things are really, really looking up. They add a final piece to the roster for the upcoming season, a big piece, no pun intended, but a 6'11" Bosnian who has been doing quite well on his on the circuit. Andre Asimovic. Let me see. Asimovic. I would guess that's easy. Someone said Don Fisher have to learn that. That should be easy. Andre Asimovic. Does that sound right?
I don't know if it's Asimovic or Asimovic. I might lean Asimovic.
You know what? I'm
going
going to go with Vich. I'm going to go with Vich. There you go. Asimovic. I like that better. Anyway, he averaged 17.5 points, 7.5 rebounds in the U19 ABA League, which is the top league in the ABA. Now, I'm not sure what the ABA is in this regard. It's not the old American Basketball Association in here that we're used to. So that's probably across the pond there. But another Bosnian, another Eastern European, and Indiana is going down to Puerto Rico to play this Serbian team. Obviously, a relationship has been started with the guys that have the pipeline to those players, and it's one that has to be done because they're coming and they're going to play somewhere.
Yeah, you have to be able to recruit internationally these days. The international talent pool is just too much. I mean, just look at the NBA and how many guys from Europe are currently standouts in the NBA and then at college too. You look at what Illinois did last year. There's just countless talent. And the talent pool from the international levels is so high and so great. And you really point to, if there's a specific guy on the staff, you really point to Drew Adams. He's got a ton of connections in the international spheres. If you look at Alexa Ristic, if you look at Asimovic, these are guys that Drew Adams has his fingerprints all over. He has those Indiana elite connections. He also has those international connections. He was over in Switzerland watching the FIBA U19 World Cup with a couple of Indiana targets featuring like Jordan Smith, but there was a handful of guys there, and he was over there in Switzerland watching those. But Drew Adams, he has a handful of international connections, and he's really putting them to use. I think this is a good foundation for Indiana to lay the groundwork and develop even stronger and even further connections internationally as Darren DeVries' tenure at IU goes on. So this is a good start. You have to get in somewhere, get in on the ground floor as far as the international prospects are concerned, and then you can maybe start going for those bigger dogs. If we're talking about recently, the likes of Kasparis, Yakachonis, like Illinois had last year, then you can start getting some of those bigger, more high-profile international guys. But these two international guys, these two Europeans have Drew Adams' fingertips all over them.
And not only that, Asimovic, I'm watching highlights right now. He is a quadruple threat, more than that. As I watch these highlights, I've already seen him he's very athletic for a 6'11" guy, moves well, can play inside, can rebound, can block shots, can throw the ball down, but he can step out and easily knock down a three. He's got a nice soft shot from 8 feet out. This dude's got a package, man.
Yeah, I think he'll be good. Again, I think we should probably temper expectations a little bit. I don't want to be the bad guy here, but
don't do that, man. Get him up.
I don't think he's going to see the floor in this 2025-26 season. He may not even see the floor next season. This is a developmental piece for Darren DeVries and IU. You know, the highlights, they can look good. This is a strictly U19 league, so this is not grown men that he's playing against over there in Bosnia or in wherever he is overseas in the ABA. This is not a big – he's not playing against adults. He's not playing against these college athletes. So he'll come in. I think he will be the 13th player. He's the 13th scholarship, and I think he'll probably be the number 13 player on the depth chart. 17, 7, 39% from three. You like the numbers you think the potential is there, but again, I think this is a developmental piece for at least year one, if not year two as well. But what Indiana sees in him is a guy that can eventually, at some point during his collegiate career, impact Indiana and impact the team in a positive manner. And like you mentioned, he's got the ability to score inside. He can shoot from three. He can rebound well. He's just a big body. He definitely needs to add a lot of muscle to that frame. And then we'll see if he can kind of remain fluid and remain a decent athlete as he continues to add muscle and add pounds to that frame. But again, I want to temper expectations a little bit. I don't think he's really going to be that impactful this season. I think he's much more a developmental piece. But again, you never know. Injuries happen. Indiana not super deep at the center spot. If he is thrust into a role this freshman year, I don't think that would be ideal for Indiana, but I think he's at least serviceable at the point that he is right now to be able to throw in there in the fire if you need to. But again, I think the ideal landing spot for him would probably be 26, 27, if not year three for him at the college level.
And something that hurts him is the fact that he hasn't joined the Indiana team yet. He has not practiced 1 minute with those guys at that level. So he's already behind. I mean, they've been going at it for a solid 2 months now. And that is, man, that puts you really far behind in what Indiana is going to be doing. We'll see if he can catch up. I think that he sees the floor this year. Just because they're, the lack of depth at that position. If he can in practice show that, hey, I can handle a few minutes or foul trouble comes around. But boy, for Indiana's future, I'm telling you, he looks like he could be a great piece in this future with all of the different skill level he has in his toolbox.
Yeah, what really stands out to me is the kind of three-level scoring ability that he showcased. He can score in and around the basket. Doesn't necessarily have an array of post moves from the little film that I've seen, but he can score in and around the basket. He's got a good three-point shot. Again, I said 39% from three-point range during this past season for him overseas. He's got a good three-point shot. He's got good touch, which I think is important for a big man, especially a European big man and somebody of his size. That's not exactly super big and strong at this point. So I like the three-level scoring ability. I see some good defensive instincts. He's maybe not an elite shot blocker yet. I think he's averaging around 1 block a game currently, but I think he's got good defensive instincts. He can get moved around a little bit on the block right now. Given his size, again, he needs to probably add at least 25, 30-plus pounds of muscle and do it rather quickly. But I like the defensive instincts. He's a good rebounder, 7.7 rebounds a game, 7.5 rebounds a game, excuse me. He's got good instincts. You can see the talent is there. Again, I'm going to have to disagree with you on this one, Jim. I don't think there's any way he sees the floor this upcoming season for IU. But I do think, again, you're looking forward. Not only could he be a good piece specifically for Indiana, if you're looking in the future 2-3 years down the line, he himself could be a good potential addition for Indiana and see the floor. But you also got to think, it makes Indiana more attractive for other potential international recruits in the future. If they've got already some international flair and flavor to this roster, and Indiana's going after some international kids, and he's got an option to choose somewhere in the middle of, let's say, Nebraska, and there's no international kids on that roster, versus he can come to Bloomington, and there's already a couple of international kids on this roster, he might lean to choose Indiana in that instance. So I think not only is this a good addition developmentally for the future of Indiana because of what Asimovich brings, but also the fact that he could maybe help recruit on the international spheres as well.
And that's good. Indiana has made the final list for a ton of elite players. Those things go hand in hand and continue to boost Indiana's recruiting, I think it's going to go quite well. Well, man, I hope you had a great time out at the Big Ten Media Days. Great job, you and Colin, covering that. Appreciate that, the information. Make sure you go to thehoosier.com. There is tons of information on IU basketball recruiting right now, with a lot of guys putting Indiana in their final list. We'll see how that turns out. Lots of footballs around the corner. Zach has all of that covered as well there. So make sure you go to thehoosier.com, check it out for $1 and then 50% off for your first year. You better get there now if you want the info. Zach, thank you as always, buddy. Look forward to seeing you again next week.
Yeah, Jed, thanks for having me as always.
Appreciate you, brother. Zach Browning joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. That's going to wrap it up for us today. We appreciate everybody that joined us. Greg Rakestraw, of course, Dustin Dopirak, Zach Browning there as well. And great to hear from all of our stuff at the NASCAR Brickyard 400 yesterday. Most importantly, thanks to each and every one of you. We're back tomorrow to do this again. Look forward to having you. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.